Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And today we're here to talk about a really cool topic, and that is building connection and community through trade shows and events. And with our great friend, Casey Cheshire. How are you, Casey?
I'm so happy to be here. It's cold for me, but I know you're in a warmer place.
Well, yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, it's kind of nice and warm today. So, you're the founder of Ringmaster, and can you just to get us started, getting into this topic, can you tell us what does Ringmaster do to help companies grow and expand?
We help companies, B2B companies, connect with their buyers. We do that with podcasts, with communities, with partnerships. It's all about getting rid of all the games that we play in marketing and getting right to being in front of people. That's why I'm so stoked to be on this podcast. Belly to belly, face to face, one-on-one connections. That's how you're going to grow your company in this crazy age of AI. So that's what we do. We have a lot of
I
fun
love it.
doing it.
Oh, that's awesome. So, thinking about community building in the context of events and
Yeah.
obviously being belly to belly, as you say, what are some of the, as you think about that, what are some of the important rules or lessons that you've learned in how to build that community?
Yeah. There's something special about being in front of someone in person. It super jumpstarts the relationship. If you didn't have one, you pick up on body language, the signals, the mannerisms. You can break bread and have a beer together, right? So you can really accelerate the relationship from stranger to friend, even at an event, so quickly. But one of the things I like to think about is the long-term game and the short-term game, right? You can make some great strides at an event, but how do you stay in relationship with people? I'm terrible at this. Friendships, business relationships. I need some kind of programmatic way to stay in contact with someone that doesn't just feel like I'm stalking you, like I'm just randomly calling you on your boat. Hey, what's up, man? And that can be okay, but maybe not all the time. I used to have a realtor that would just call me like that, and you could tell he was scripted. I'm like, hey, we're supposed to be friends. Why are you reading a script to me? So one of the big warnings that I always throw at people is be careful about scripting yourself when you're reaching out to lots of people. This realtor, fellow Marine, great guy, but every now and then he would end our conversation with, well, Casey, if you know of anyone buying or selling a home, it's like, dude, we're supposed to be like boys. We're supposed to be friends. You don't need to say that to me, maybe a different way. So scripting can really get in the way of things. It's almost like be a human, right? And so the in-person thing, whether you're professional or more relaxed or whatever your mannerisms, just be a human and basically try to avoid anything that sales and marketing is telling you to do, and just put all that aside and just be a person trying to make a relationship and a friendship with someone else.
So the word that comes to mind as you're saying this, which is absolutely brilliant, is empathy. It's being, relating to the person in their words, in the way that they'll respond. It just sounds so smart for sure.
Yeah, you put yourself in their shoes. My favorite radio station, I learned this from an old school marketing leader that I worked for, and I guess you have to update this metaphor to my favorite Spotify playlist. It's What's in It for Me, WIIFM, right?
Yeah,
so what's in it for me, the latest, greatest station on Spotify now, but really thinking about it, that empathy, like you're talking about, but what matters to them? I just got an email today saying, come check out my website. Why, friend? I just got a new YouTube channel. Good for you.
Right.
Why? You literally just stole 10 seconds of my life that I'll never get back, that I could have been improving my Wordle score, but instead you wanted to tell me about what's in it for the person receiving the message. And so, that plays true, especially in those one-on-one relationships, talking to people on a podcast like this, or definitely in person, building that relationship.
Yeah, and speaking for podcasts, there really does seem to be an intersection today of sort of in-person events and podcasts. We're seeing, a growing number of companies who are hosting their podcast at an event and whatnot. And I know you're supporting companies doing that. Can you walk us through that? Why would we want to kind of have maybe it's interviewing customers or whatnot? Why would we want to do that at an event?
My number one tip for events is record a podcast at your event. If you have a booth space, large or small, you don't need one of those $2 billion booth space with your own sound studio. But if you have that, call me. That sounds great. But you could even just with a microphone and a camera, you can record quick little clips with those that are walking by, interacting with. The reason why is this is that short-term, long-term mentality. You're going to get some great wins. But what always happens the Monday after an event? Unsubscribe, right? I just wanted that unicorn stuffed animal for my daughter, and I got it, and you scanned my badge, but now I don't want to talk to you ever again. Unsubscribe. And now you might as well have like what you invested time and a stuffed animal in that relationship, and it was for nothing, right? So how can we think long term? Well, something like a podcast starts this by saying, hey, guess what? There are resources and materials outside of this event. Maybe we have a community, maybe we have a podcast, something you might actually really enjoy tuning into. And oh, look, some of the people you know have already been on the podcast. Well, it's a bit of a commitment to get someone to be on a full-on episode, and you don't really have time. It's kind of noisy, but just asking them a quick question. What's your take on this event this year? Or why do you come to this event every year? Not even about yourself, right? It's just about something that someone walking by might say. And then you capture their info to be able to let them know when their episode goes live. And you make a compilation. So you have a compilation of all the attendees answering questions. Hey, what's your tip this year? Hey, what are you putting your budget in this year? Hey, any kind of questions like that, you become like an analyst. You become the newspaper, the place to go to find out. Most people at these events really want to know not so much what they should do, but what's everyone else doing, right? What's everyone else's take on this project or on this investment? And so you just gather a little bit of this. And when they hear the question you ask them, they're instantly going to be curious about what does everyone else say to that question? I love to hear everyone else's answer. And so it's a much better way of capturing their information other than let's do a quick barter for the stuffed animal that you're going to unsubscribe from. And hey, guilty. I definitely got all sorts of things for my kids when I was traveling and they were little. And I didn't have to go to the airport and spend $20 for an overpriced Beanie Baby. I just got it for free from your booth. But you didn't build a long-term relationship with me. So that's the reason is you want to start doing these little quick hit recordings. It's fun too. And you see other people doing a little recording. I've seen people queue up for it. They're not even sure why they're doing it, but it's cool. And then eventually the line's longer than the coffee line, right? It's longer than that like custom coffee line. You're like, okay, and you create a buzz, and it's a buzz that you didn't really have to pay money for. It's a buzz that came from you giving your time and attention to the attendees, to the other people.
So what would be the difference? And I hear you talking about sort of interviewing people who had just come into the booth, or even be walking by. What would be the difference between that and actually pre-setting, for example, customers and partners to be interviewed in your booth or in some kind of prominent space at the event? Is there a strategic difference in that?
You're brilliant. If people aren't working with you, they should. That's absolutely the right question to ask. Yes, you do both. And so you schedule the people that you really want to meet with at the event. And maybe they don't necessarily know that they want to have a meeting with you yet. You can schedule a podcast with them. Obviously, you've got the folks that want to meet you just for coffee or whatnot. You make it a little bit more fun and you add in a podcast recording. Why? Because it's about them. You're giving them a platform. You're giving them time and attention, and they're much more likely to show up. So we've seen with all of our clients, people will show up for these things because they're pre-scheduled. Letting you down off a casual meet and greet is one thing, but when you have this odd thing called a scheduled podcast recording, people don't want to let you down. Like I was driving around this morning in the snow up here in New Hampshire. Like I got to make sure I'm there for Bill. Like I'm not going to just like shoot you a note where if it was just like a casual meet and greet, like, hey man, snow, I got to nope, we got to do this thing. Right. So you see so much better turn up rates for all those meetings with partners, with customers, with future customers by just scheduling that in advance. And then you use the downtime in between to capture everybody else.
Right. No, I like that because I like the idea of sort of appointment assurance. So you say, we're going to have a 25 or 30-minute meeting. I want to take 5 minutes of that to kind of talk to you about, sort of your goals for the next 12 months or, kind of what's gone really well for you, or any topic that would be meaningful and help them promote kind of what they're doing. So no,
Yeah,
I
I
think
love that.
that's
Appointment assurance. I
yeah.
think you need to be my spokesperson. I love that. I wrote that down. Phil teaching me things today.
Well, that's it's all we work with each other for sure.
Yeah.
So this is great. So in terms of getting, I think the other big question people have is, okay, so we've talked a little bit about content. What do we, who do we have in it? Kind of what's the content? But then, I guess to me, there's almost two things, right? Which is, in some cases we want to have eyeballs, people watching the content that we put up.
Sure.
But the other case, it seems like the win is actually just the conversation, right? The person we're having the conversation with and building that relationship and whatnot. How do you sort of separate between, the sort of the wants and in B2B, most of us don't need that many eyeballs. We just want the right eyeballs, right? We're not a consumer product. So how just kind of briefly, if we could just talk about, sort of the value, how do we build value with it, whether it's with the individual or in terms of getting the right eyeballs?
100%. Like you couldn't have said it any better. The connection, the conversation is the win. The multiple scaled up eyeballs of other people watching it, that's like gravy. And if you're going to have a turkey or gravy, which one do you want to have by itself, right? It's pretty clear you probably want to have the turkey if you can only have one of the two.
Yeah, I'm not thinking just having the gravy is a great idea.
Are you thinking that? You just get
no, I said no.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say you're a gravy monster over there. Yeah, it's the connection, and this is why I wanted the chat on a B2B focused podcast. This works so well with B2B. B2C, friends, you're good luck. You got to get billions of eyeballs. But in the B2B world, it's not about meeting 30 million people. That one relationship can turn into a customer, but we have to nurture it, right? And we have to take that long-term approach. So yeah, oftentimes when we're advising folks, when we launch a new podcast for them, it's don't worry about those other metrics. They call them vanity metrics for a reason. Like vanity as in vain, like don't worry about them, right? They will come, because what ends up happening is you have these great relationships, and then your guest is like, wow, I felt really well represented there. I felt like I really crushed it. That's how I feel right now in this podcast. I'm like, man, Bill's podcast is awesome. I can't wait to share this episode with everyone that I know afterward. And that's exactly what happens, is that your connection that you invested in, that singular connection on that episode, now shares it with their whole tribe. Now everyone else knows about this pod that they totally need to know about. And that's how I feel about this pod right now. So it's not like I'm just making up random things. It's people just, wow, that was really good. And, selfishly, wow, I felt like I spoke really well, other than appointment insurance, which you came up with, which I'm now going to steal, and I'll cite you every time. But, but like, that's the idea. It's just, it's the connection. So in my mind, we play a lot of games where we're not belly to belly, where we're not face to face. And those games spend all of our money and they spend all of our time, and the returns are in the fractions of a percent. It's like silly. Let's stop doing that. Let's get back to the events. Let's have podcasts. Let's have community. Let's build things where we're actually looking at each other, sharing a drink, breaking bread. Like that's what it's all about.
Perfect. Oh, this is Casey. You've I think really hit the nail on the head here. This has been fantastic. I know the companies listening are getting a lot out of it. Do you mind if I share your contact info in the description below?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for spending the time today. We'll be excited to see you hopefully here in the coming months. And again, thanks for all your wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. This is a great pod.
My pleasure. Thank you.